Cyberpunk 2077 boasts a ridiculously versatile range of ways that you can play. Trust me, I've made enough videos at this point to understand this pretty well. But as interesting and creative as methods like quick hacking and becoming Quicksilver with the Sandevistan can be, there's a certain irreplaceable primal satisfaction when it comes to tanking with shotguns. Indeed, I've realised through the course of making this video that speccing heavily into health and armour stats before literally running in shotguns blazing to an overwhelmingly large group of enemies works surprisingly well. Stick around as we test out all 15 of the game's shotguns, weighing up the pros and cons before deciding once and for all which is best. Let's get into it. First up, let's go over the build I've decided to run with in this video. Attributes and perks wise, I've spec'd 20 points into body, buying up every single annihilation perk as well as anything in athletics that boosts either our resistances or health regen. Then I've made sure to have over 6 reflex points in order to use one of the best shotguns in the game. Technical ability, as always with these weapon videos, is level 18, because only then can we craft some legendary weapon variants. I've also bought all the perks from engineering, which either improve ricochet, smart, or tech weapons, in order to make the most of the unique features on these various guns. Finally, I've spec'd remaining points into cool, to utilise the tanky ability of cold blood. Moving into cyberware, my priority here was staying alive. Not so much the 70s song by the Bee Gees, but rather a desire to, you know, not die. Items like the second heart and biomonitor work as second and third chances if my health gets too low, whilst the cata resist and pain editor mitigate a percentage of damage overall. Now, I've mentioned before in other videos that pretty much nobody uses Berserk, and I think for today's video, it is a very good opportunity to take it out for a proper spin. After all, it literally just further enhances everything I already want. Bonus resistances, increased health regen, as well as reduced recoil and sway. The only thing I'll be changing from this image, in fact, is our hand mod, since Smart Link will be required for smart shotguns and ballistic coprocessor for those with ricochet. Anyway, now that you have some context for the way I'll be testing these, let's get on to the guns themselves. Down at the bottom as the worst shotgun on this list, in my opinion, is the double-barreled Igla. I think that's how you pronounce it. It means needle in Serbian, and quite why one would want to associate a needle with a shotgun, I'm not entirely sure. Needles are pointy and precise, whereas this gun perhaps tries but fails to be either one of these things. Even a precision hit doesn't achieve as much as this weapon's superior variants. And granted, I am only using the rare version of this gun, however, that is because it is the only shotgun in the game for which I couldn't find a definitive location in which to attain its highest tier variant, which still is only the epic version. The Igla, of course, follows the design of the classic double-barrel shotgun, though unfortunately this is 2077 and the world has largely moved on from classic antiques like this one. The 4 other double-barrel shotguns in this game have taken this design and improved or modernized it through one form or another. However, this weapon is pretty easy to come by and is extremely common out in the streets of Night City, so it's a good early game weapon. But that's it. Unless you enjoy the feel of a classic double-barrel shotgun, I see no reason why you'd hold on to this for an extended period of time. As the game says, it produces more noise than damage. Up next, we have the slightly better VST-37 Pozhar. And again, apologies if I am butchering these names, though I did look up and listen to pronunciations this time, so there is that. Now, once again, this gun only goes up to epic, which is annoying because it automatically makes the weapon less viable for long-term builds. That being said, the Pozhar is the only shotgun on this list which can fire automatically, and has extremely low recoil when compared to most of the others. What's more, the use of a mag rather than slugs means reload time is pretty quick, though that's kind of where the praise stops. This gun is extremely weak when compared to some of the powerhouse shotguns later on in this video. It requires several bullets to take an enemy down most of the time, and I found myself actually running out of shotgun ammo, despite entering combat with the maximum amount. If you're accurate and don't waste any shots, then maybe, just maybe, this gun can work for you. But I just found the skill set required to effectively use this is essentially that of an assault rifle, not a shotgun. There's none of that primal satisfaction I mentioned at the start of the video, so unless you're looking for some weird, hybridized shotgun AR experience, I can't really recommend this one. Head to the Jacked and Coke Club in Vista del Rey though if you do fancy giving it a try. Number 13, and we're already getting on to the good stuff. As usual, most of the game's weapons are actually pretty decent in some way or another. Much like the Igla, the M2038 Tactician can be acquired reasonably early on in your game, and is a common weapon carried by gang members. The ability to attach a scope provides a nice boost to accuracy, meaning this gun can double as both a precision as well as a spray and pray weapon. Ricochet is also very useful. In fact, it's sometimes better with these weapons to actually fire at the floor, since Ricochet is a pretty satisfying thing to achieve and can even be more damaging overall. One thing that did annoy me though, which annoys me with several of these guns actually, is the need to reload each slug one at a time. Now I fully get that that's how the weapon works, and great power comes at the expense of increased reload time. However, when weapons exist on this list which reload a lot faster, it will put the slower ones at a disadvantage. Overall though, this is a very decent all-rounder shotgun. It may not do anything notably special, but it certainly gets the job done. Let There Be Carnage is a movie that I haven't actually seen, though I didn't mind the first one. Anyway, I'm actually talking today about the big old powerful shotgun which knocks everyone down. You can acquire a decent Carnage variant from the Cyberpunk sighting on Deaf Ears, over in downtown city centre. Equally, you can craft your own pretty easily, after unlocking the legendary crafting spec at crafting level 12. This gun is great for mid-game and holds up pretty well in late game too if you don't want to trade it out. A better all-rounder than the Tactician, arguably. However, it will require an initial 10 body to properly use, most likely not a problem for anyone planning a shotgun build, but does throw a spanner in the works for early game. What's more, it is a budget gun. Powerful, sure, but not the most reliable or accurate. Mind you, if you do what I do and just run up and shoot people directly in the face, you probably won't notice this issue. That being said, there are variants of this gun which do serve as major improvements in my eyes, but we'll get to those in a bit. The Satara is a much cooler variant of the double-barreled Igla. The only tech shotgun in the game, Satara holds the unique benefit of being able to shoot through walls. It's useful, for certain, though not as much as I'd expected it to be honest. Indeed, the close quarters nature of a shotgun build likely means that peeking around or hopping over a wall is but a minor inconvenience, and you're probably better off just selecting a better quality weapon than this. What's more, the charging nature of a tech weapon doesn't work great for a shotgun as far as I'm concerned. I find it ruins the accuracy of my shot due to my tactic of running up to an enemy and shooting immediately, though in this instance they have plenty of time to move out the way whilst the weapon charges. Then again, that's just my opinion, and if it works out for you, then great. A legendary version does exist, but must be purchased from Maelstrom. However, seeing as Meredith Stout is quite attractive for a video game character, I obviously chose not to do that, and am therefore only playing with the epic version. Despite this, I'm actually still doing a pretty decent amount of damage when I actually do hit enemies, and the elemental effects are a massive bonus too. The thermal damage inflicted here would often steal remaining health, meaning if I didn't take someone out in a clean hit, I still essentially one-shot them. Overall, if you're a tech weapon enthusiast, then the Satara, with its awesome design, isn't a bad choice for you. Into the top 10 now, and we have what I believe to be the superior equivalent of the Pozhar. The Militech Crusher offers a decent rate of fire, very little recoil, and a fast magazine-based reload. It's great for shooting at specific targets from something of a distance, and the addition of a scope will only aid in this. Now, whilst it was okay when paired with Berserk here, they certainly weren't a shining couple, and I'd probably recommend pairing this with the Sandevistan as I do in my 2-second cooldown build video. Unfortunately, this is mostly available at the rare tier, with just a single epic variant that can be acquired during the Wasteland Cyberpunk gig. In spite of this, it's still a very decent gun, taking enemies out in 2, maybe 3 hits. Sure, that's not as powerful as many others on this list, though I can recommend bringing it along, especially if you're running a shotguns only build, as it'll bring a tiny bit of order back to all that chaos. So you want a classic double-barrel shotgun that can keep up with the guns of 2077. Unfortunately, the Igla is a piece of crap. Well, that's where Sovereign comes in. You can pick this thing up from the Suspected Crime Activity Modern Labour Market over in Japantown, Westbrook. Now, for starters, this thing is way more vintage looking than any other shotgun, with a classic wooden stock. It also boasts a faster reload time and reduced weapon spread, allowing for quicker and better ranged shooting. But most importantly, you can upgrade upgrade this one to legendary and use it all the way into the endgame. What's more, if you aim down the sight, it'll fire both shots at once, but fire from the hip and it'll be just one. It's quite nice to be able to choose whether you want double damage or 2 shots. However, in order to get it to legendary level, you are obviously going to have to level that crafting right the way up, which isn't feasible for quite a while. Once you do though, you can inflict some real damage, and the high chance ongoing bleeding effect is also a huge plus. Overall, if you want to pretend that you're out on some fancy hunting trip with the royal family or some other rich nobility, then the Sovereign is the gun for you. Now, legend has it that one can acquire this next gun by looking in a mirror and repeating 3 times over the words, "Bloody Maria, I killed your Oh, no, sorry, hang on. It's actually awarded after completing all 11 of the Muammar Captain Reyes gigs, that was it, yeah. It's an iconic variant of the Tactician, which we covered earlier, though this one has the bonus of increased power. This increases 3 stats specifically: knockdown, bleeding, and dismemberment. If you are a fan of the Fallout games, then hopefully you'll appreciate this gun. Annoyingly, however, much like the regular Tactician, reloading is a right pain, with 8 individual slugs to reslot every time you run out of ammo. What's more, I'd say that Tactician variants generally have a narrower spread than Carnage ones, which can be good when you hit enemies, but missing is pretty bloody annoying, not to mention somewhat common, or perhaps I'm just bad. I'd say slot a Sandevistan instead to counteract that, but the fire rate is so slow anyway that you'd only get off about 2 shots maximum when slowing time. In spite of the cons though, this is still a great gun, and I cannot understate just how fun it is to watch everybody go flying. It's hilarious. Now, some clever clogs thought it would be funny to take the ancient double-barrel shotgun design and mod it to incorporate a smart targeting system. The result is the Palica. With each shot firing 9 projectiles, this gun packs a lot of power into its shots, and I found it so fun to use. Why? Well, you see, when firing this gun, the impact isn't instantaneous. The projectiles fly around a bit, lock onto their target, then converge on them all at once. Practically, it's kind of annoying, but for some reason I find it very amusing. It's almost like I get a split second to move on from my action, only for my foe to get hit and fall down at a slightly unexpected moment. You can acquire this from drops and weapon vendors all across Night City, but bear in mind that in order to purchase the Legendary Edition, you'll have to be level 50. Not the most practical, but there's nothing to say you won't find a Legendary variant out in the world before that. I've said it before and I'll say it again, smart guns are inherently lazy, but that doesn't mean they aren't fun, and I can seriously recommend this if you're going for a smart weapons shotgun build. Do bear in mind though that using this weapon alongside those with ricochet isn't really practical, seeing as you can't slot in the smart link and ballistic coprocessor hand mods at the same time. Continuing our theme of smart weapons, I'll do you one better. The L69 Zhuo is a precision shotgun if ever there were such a thing, with its smart targeting capabilities massively increasing its range and accuracy over other shotguns. It is without a doubt one of the most 2077 feeling guns in the game, with everything about it screaming top tier modern technology. This multi-chamber ammo system is way quicker to reload than the classics, providing yet another edge. Sure, it doesn't give off quite the same classic shotgun tanky feel, but in my very humble opinion, this almost feels better to use. It's more efficient without a doubt, seeing as every projectile should hit a target, and I cleared the Wraith Camp way quicker with this than most other weapons. It's not as powerful as Adam Smasher's unique variant, the Xing Chong, which we'll cover in a bit, but honestly, the legendary model especially isn't far off that, and this can easily stand in for that gun for most, if not all, of the game. The Headsman is a variant of the Tactician which can be acquired from the suspected crime activity privacy policy violation, right the way up in Norfolk. Be warned though, this is far from an easy fight, with robots and mechs serving as the majority of your opponents in this compound. I'd wait till you feel really ready before attempting to snatch up this one. The Headsman fires 16 projectiles per shot as opposed to the regular Tactician's 6, which of course contributes to higher bleeding and dismemberment. Like, seriously, close range shots with this are mental, and are gonna fill your screen up with a lot of numbers, trust me. What's more, this variant only holds 4 rounds as opposed to 8, and hear me out because I quite like this. My main problem with the 8-round variants is the slow and lengthy process of slotting 8 rounds into the gun. With only 4, reloading takes place a bit more often, but is also twice as quick, and is less frustrating in my eyes. Also, the insane bleeding effects, again, like with so many others, but even better this time, will finish most enemies even if you don't straight up one-shot them. Only real con to this gun I can find is the slow rate of fire, which to be honest can be a big issue, since it gives enemies ample time to shoot back at you. Therefore, without a tanky build to back up this gun, or a less guns blazing approach in general, you may just wind up dead before you can fully enjoy this thing. In fourth place, we have the double-barreled Testera. That's right, with the Igla falling to the bottom of this list, I think it's rather impressive that one of its variants has made it all the way to fourth, but that's just testament to how much I enjoyed using this gun. It just felt so satisfying to use. It had, for example, extraordinary ricochet, and is definitely a contender for the upcoming ricochet build I plan on developing. The legendary variant of this gun is also both buyable and craftable, which is a big plus in my book. Multiple options are nice. And I have to talk, of course, about the power and reload time, because they go hand in hand perfectly together. There's not much need to aim well, just run in and one-shot whatever poor sod is next on your radar. Hell, it can handle a whole group if they're close enough. It will fire both rounds at once, so needs to reload every time you fire it. But this though isn't a problem, far from it in fact. The reload time was quick, very quick. Now granted, this is somewhat boosted for me by perks, but it still makes it a faster gun to reload than the rest, as I've had the same perks for all the guns. Overall, the Testera just sums up what a double-barrel shotgun should feel like to use in this game for me. It's fast, it's lethal, it sends enemies flying, and I mean really flying, like even more than usual. So yeah, I just love it. It's a cut above the rest of the double barrels, and one I would certainly use in a lot of shotgun builds. But there are a few regulars, which I found to be even more impressive. I mentioned it earlier, and here we are. The Xing Chong is Adam Smasher's iconic variant of the L69 Zhuo, and I think translates to 8-star insect. I suppose in that it fires 8 rounds. Now, whilst the Zhuo is perfectly capable of being a fantastic gun on its own, the Xing Chong is simply the upgrade. With explosive tips added to each smart projectile, dismemberment with this thing is high, just what you'd expect from Adam Smasher, of course. Once you can get your hands on this, I just can't see why anyone would ever go back. It's described as, quote, the perfect arsenal for a one-person army, end quote, and truly I can't think of a better description. But here's the kicker, and it is a big one. This gun can't be acquired until after completing one of the game's unique endings. That means unless you rush through the main storyline, there is no way of using this until after playing through most of the game. Sure, you might have plenty of gigs left to complete and can certainly enjoy it then, but really it's quite a shame that this gun can't be used sooner. Hopefully when Phantom Liberty releases, we can use it in that, and it'll have a bit more long-term utility. At number 2, we have Guts. Now, believe me, I wanted to rank this number 1, I really did, and if it were based entirely on who it belonged to alone, then it absolutely would be top of this list. However, I do have to keep my eye on the bigger picture here, and the context surrounding this gun is but one of a bigger whole. Guts, of course, once belonged to Rebecca from Cyberpunk Edgerunners, an incredibly lovable and very insane character. You can acquire it for yourself by heading right into the city centre, up the steps to about here on the map, and if you can see these 3 monks, you're in the right place. Head into the bushes behind, and when you're close enough, a legendary gold icon will appear, showing you found Guts. This easy acquisition is also a huge plus for the gun. It is of course an iconic variant of the Carnage shotgun, and well, this takes that word to an entirely new level. It takes everything great about Carnage, adds chemical damage, and a ridiculous amount of recoil potential. I mean, literally, fire this thing into a big group of enemies and prepare for the dopamine hit as your screen lights up with red crit numbers. Multiple enemies fall down, and you might just be questioning what the hell is going on for yourself. Guts, of course, is a mental time with a humongous recoil and spread, longer reload time, and slow rate of fire being brought in to further exacerbate the anxiety-inducing insanity which comes with this gun. Now, normally I would class these things as big issues, and I suppose I still do, in the fact that this gun isn't number 1. But when assessing Guts as an extension of Rebecca's personality, I wouldn't change a single thing. Powerful? Oh yes. Unpredictable? So much so. Do I love it? Absolutely. Finally, at number 1, the best shotgun in the game in terms of the pure overall experience, in my opinion, is the Mox. This is acquired from Judy after completing all of her quests, which is of course a plus because it means that anybody can acquire it at no greater time or expense. The only thing you'll need to put time into as usual to get this gun as good as it can be is crafting, though that's going to be the same with pretty much all iconic weapons, unfortunately. The tech tree is kind of locked in as necessary to the majority of builds. The Mox for me has it all. It's a legendary version version of Carnage, which I think is my favourite overall shotgun type at this point. Though unlike Guts, this thing massively reduces recoil, it doesn't increase it. What's more, it doesn't compromise on power in any way, and in fact boosts increased range and precision if you need it, though it's still also awesome at close range. Reloading slugs is still a thing, but way quicker than usual, whilst less projectiles are wasted due to a well-balanced spread reduction. If this isn't enough for you, then slap thermal damage on top, ensuring anyone who isn't one-shotted dies soon after. The sniper in this Wraith camp has been great for testing the longer range of these shotguns throughout the video, though for most it's demonstrated that they're only really worth using at close range. Fair enough, they are shotguns after all, but not the mocks though. Watch this. The initial hit was decent in and of itself, but that thermal damage was something else. The reduced spread also means good things for Ricochet, and again, the Mox is certainly another contender for a Ricochet build, which I'll link in this video once I've made it. Only tiny drawback to using the Mox shotgun is that it requires 6 reflex points, something which isn't really otherwise necessary for a shotgun build. Sure, it's not a huge sacrifice, only 3 more attribute points on top of the basic 3, but still, if you're desperately trying to unlock all of those shotgun perks by specing into body, then sacrificing a few on reflexes might be somewhat of a blow. In the grand scheme of things though, it's a small sacrifice, and one which I think is totally worth it to get your hands on one of, if not the best, shotgun in the game. But I'm sure your opinions will differ to mine, at least somewhat, so comment down below, what's your favourite shotgun in Cyberpunk 2077 and why? If you found this video informative, or it inspired you to use a shotgun you've previously never tried before, then please don't forget to leave a like on the video. These ones take a great many hours to produce, and it seriously helps me out a lot. I plan to cover all weapons, cyberware, and more in this format, with a bunch of videos already on the channel covering things like revolvers, Sandevistans, quick hacks, builds, and more. If that sounds like your thing, then go ahead, hit that subscribe button and notification bell today to stay up to date on all my future videos. Until then, thank you very much for watching. I'm Bram, and I'll see you very soon in another video.